Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence, we go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything. And you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on. It's going to be fun.
All right, guys. Today's date, January 28, 2023, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, the most Will Buchanan on How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense of it all. Before we get started, guys, to let you know that, we are a news podcast. We do try to watch our language. At the same time, there may be things that might be shown that might be too intense for younger viewers, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. So, what do we get into on this wonderful, depending on where you are, maybe snow, maybe rain, Mother Nature's kind of ticked off at everybody these days. But you know who else is being too? What else everybody is ticked off at? Documents. Apparently, not only President Biden, not only former failure in chief Donald Trump, but now a new person has entered the ring of finding classified documents at their home.
Plus, a source revealing, get this, another discovery of classified documents. Roughly a dozen government documents were uncovered at the home of former Vice President Mike Pence. That home is in Indiana. The search took place last week. The documents were found by one of the former vice president's lawyers. The FBI was immediately notified. This find, of course, flies in the face of repeated Pence denials that he held onto any classified materials when he left the government. The backdrop to, well, you all know this, two separate special counsels already investigating the current and the former president, Joe Biden and Donald Trump, for potential breaches as well and how they handled government secrets. Our CNN special correspondent, Jamie Gangel, is breaking this news story. CNN Justice correspondent, Evan Paris, also with us. Jamie, walk us through what we know.
So, more documents. This is now number 3, former Vice President Mike Pence. Out of an abundance of caution, we are told he had a lawyer go through his house and double check boxes. They found 4 boxes in his home in Indiana. They say they had been sealed since the time he left as vice president. They go through the boxes and they found roughly 12 documents that appear to have classified markings on them. They immediately called, this was last week, they immediately called the National Archives to hand them over. It's our understanding the archives, because of everything that's going on with Biden and Trump, alerted the Justice Department. And the night of January 19th, the FBI came to the Pence home in Indiana, and they handed over those 12 documents. For clarity, these boxes have not been stored in a secure place. They've been in his home, but I'm told they were sealed. However, when the lawyer found these 12 documents, they took the 12 documents and kept them in a safe until the FBI came.
And so this is not to pick on the former vice president, because I think we now have seen that this can happen. But in November,
right,
as the Trump story was breaking, we did not know at this point about the Biden story. In the Trump story back in November, the former vice president sat down with ABC News, and it was quite direct.
Did you take any classified documents with you from the White House?
I did not.
Do you see any reason for anyone to take classified documents with them leaving the White House?
Well, there'd be no reason to have classified documents, particularly if they were in an unprotected area.
Well, there were classified documents, and they were in, as you reported, an unprotected area.
Right.
Okay. So let's just get to the point. Mike Pence, creepy Christian of the year, Beckley Bell when he was in office. Yes, the next person to basically catch having classified documents in his home. Here is the big difference. Again, lawyers caught it, called the National Archives, said, hey, we found documents. National Archives called the Department of Justice. Investigation is going to happen. Let me tell you why this is minute, because all Pence basically did was what everybody should do in that situation. If you have classified documents, and they're in an unsecure area, you alert the National Archives. That's what every official is supposed to do in that situation. It does, however, bring up the question of why do we keep finding these former politicians, administrative officials? Why do they have these documents? Which is going to be the question a lot of people are asking, because now we're just noticing it's not just one, it's not just two, we're now up to three, which a lot of people, although albeit I'm going to be honest with you, outside of Trump, who is literally and effectively trying to keep all of his documents or trying to defend the reason why he has those documents, outside of that one exception, it's almost minute. I mean, we keep saying this whole time, these guys, number one, these guys are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s, which is the reason why we say we need to start putting a limit on who can run for office. But more importantly, we are going to have to ask that question. Why is it that your office, why are these documents in your home? Why do you still have them? Why do you still need them? Because that's going to become the issue. However, that is the duty of the Department of Justice and the National Archives to figure out. And I mean, give it to Pence. I'll give it to him, although he's the creepiest Christian I've ever heard of, because he calls his wife mother, which is still, ugh. But again, for a Republican, he did the right thing. He contacted National Archives. They went from there. There literally is not a lot of smoke in the Biden and Pence, except for why did these two individuals still happen to have documents that they really don't need to have or shouldn't have in places where they aren't secure? That becomes the national debate versus Trump, who still believes he can do anything because he doesn't know the difference between a dictator and a president. But again, we'll follow that story as it goes along. But just want to sit there and I know there's going to be a lot of people saying, well, he did the right thing too. Yes, a conservative did the right thing. A broken clock is right twice a day. Speaking of Republicans, though, there is one that is still fighting for his political career, if you will. And it's pretty bad because usually for most conservatives, they go to Fox News as their refuge, their safe place, the one place they won't get a lot of questions, a lot of hard questions, the softball ones. Well, in this case, a former, well, I won't say a former, well, I mean, she was a Democrat. Then she decided the Democrat Party wasn't for her. And then she turned conservative. Then she did what everybody else does when they fail in politics. Go to Fox News. This same person, Tulsi Gabbard, is actually talking to that representative-elect George Santos. And, you know, it's just weird to see conservatives eat their own.
Blatant lies. My question is, do you have no shame? You don't really seem to be taking this seriously. You've apologized. You said you've made mistakes, but you've outright lied. A lie is not an embellishment on a resume. You said you worked at Goldman Sachs and Citigroup, but they've said we've got no record of this guy working for us.
We can debate my resume and how I worked with firms such as Goldman.
Is it debatable or is it just false?
No,
is it debatable or is it just
debatable?
False?
No, it's not false at all. It's debatable.
What does the word integrity mean to you?
It means to carry yourself in an honorable way. And I made a mistake. And I think humans are flawed, and we all make mistakes, Tulsi. I remain committed in delivering results for the American people. I campaigned on inflation. I campaigned on crime. I campaigned on education. I campaigned on delivering resolve for the American people. That's what the people of the 3rd Congressional District heard me on and on as I campaigned. Now it's going to be incumbent upon me to.
Well, now it's going to be upon you to have to defend yourself. Again, it's weird that this man is still a story. For all those who don't know, George Santos, again, a Republican elected of New York, was found out at first that he had lied on his resume, lied about going to a specific college, which he still defends. Then it was a possible issue of campaign funding that he was doing for a veteran with a damaged animal. And then there comes the idea of him dressing in drag, and he's denying it. Not a big deal whether or not you are LGBTQ plus or like dressing in drag. There's nothing wrong with that. But his stance against LGBTQ plus rights and for people of different preferences, he stands heavily against that, would seem a little contradictory. And now, at first he said, let's not forget, calling himself Jewish, but he wasn't Jewish, but he's somehow Jewish. It is weird that this man has this much going on, and for the simple fact of the matter that we are still talking about him. And for the simple fact of the matter, all Democrats are calling for him to dude, just step down. He is facing an ethics committee, but that ethics committee is of all Republicans. And like I keep saying, guys, Kevin McCarthy is now the new House Speaker. The Republicans do control the House by a slim majority. They need every possible seat because they believe in basically just disrupting the last 2 years of Biden's first term. Disrupting. They offer no plans. They offer nothing to help with the budget. They have nothing to help budget to avoid another debt ceiling. They have nothing to give except give more to the military and give more to the corporate and rich people. They offer nothing more to help the people that are in small businesses and those individuals and families trying to get by. They are simply there to disrupt, block, say no, and then somehow blame the Democrats for a fire they started. They need all the help and votes and seats they can get. That is why George Santos might still wind up being elected. But we shouldn't be surprised. Look at Marjorie Taylor Greene, a woman who literally spotted nothing but QAnon and conspiracy theories, and she got elected twice. That alone says a lot. I'm just putting it out that way. But again, it's a crazy story that you see. It's just the more we dig into this guy, the more that comes up, the more it's just like, can't you guys just do a recall in New York and do this all over again? Just saying. But we do have an update on the Tyree Nichols, forgive me if I pronounce his name, story. As you know, that man who was beaten down by several police officers. Those police officers have now been convicted, charged with secondary murder. But for all those of you refresher course, here's what we're talking about.
In Memphis, Tennessee, over the death of Tyree Nichols. Tensions running high at a city council meeting demanding the immediate release of the police body camera footage from Nichols' arrest and for the officers to be charged with murder. Nichols was beaten by officers for 3 minutes on January 7th after they stopped him for reckless driving. Our Shimon Prokupez live in Memphis this morning with more. Shimon, good morning. Preliminary results of an autopsy were released. What are we learning now?
Right. That autopsy, Don, was done by the request of the family. The family did their own independent autopsy. And what they found, according to their attorney, Ben Crump, was that Tyree Nichols died from severe bleeding as a result of a beating. Now, Don, I want to take you out here to the scene. This is where it all started. This is the intersection that police say that Tyree Nichols was first stopped by police, and then he ran. There was a pursuit along this road here, all the way just about under a mile near where his mother lives. And that is where ultimately he would die, where investigators say police wind up catching up to him. And then something happened. And according to the family, which has viewed body camera footage, they say that he was beaten in that location, ultimately was taken to the hospital where he died. Now, Don, most of what we know about what happened here is not coming from the police. They have refused to release any information, basic questions to the police about, were these officers in uniform? What time exactly was Tyree Nichols taken to the hospital? All those questions have remained unanswered by the police. As we know, 5 officers were fired. 2 EMTs here were placed on leave as a result of this incident. And now we wait for the district attorney to make his decision on whether or not he's going to pursue charges. And of course, ultimately, that video, the body camera footage and other footage that police have done.
Can we talk, Shimon, about that emotional, right, fiery community meeting that happened last night? What are residents saying about the body cam not being released? They want it done out there.
Absolutely. They want it out. They want more information because the police have been refusing to give any information. So they want the body camera footage released. They want other information released. Take a listen at some of the community members who spoke at a city council meeting.
In 2007. As you know, there was a murder that took place here on January the 7th, I believe. Mr. Tyree Nichols, he was murdered at the hands of the Memphis police. I am very upset with everybody on this city council because you are our representatives, you are our checks and balances, and not one of you have come out publicly and demanded that tape that we paid $3 million, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Wade, when we paid for the body cams, we, the taxpayers, paid for it. This is about transparency. And damn it, we gonna have it, or we need a refund on our tax dollars that we paid. The public wants to see what happened. We want to know, are we really employing people that think it's okay to beat the shit out of folks? What we heard before, we pay for these cameras. We want to see what is going on. Do I want to see the video? I don't know. I'm a mama too. So many of us are. We're brothers and sisters and children, sons and daughters. But what we do want to see is justice for Tyree and everyone else like him walking these streets.
And so, Don, now, this is all in the hands of the district attorney here. We're waiting to hear more from him. He says this video will come out once his investigation is complete, once they're done interviewing witnesses. He says the reason why they don't want to release it is because they don't want to in any way sway witness testimony. If they see this video, they may change their testimony. And that is the reason why this video has not been released. But I could.
Okay, let me tell you why that's weak sauce. First and foremost, also, again, just to let you know that eventually those 5 officers are being charged with second-degree murder. So just to point that out there. But the reasoning, because at this point in time, the body camera footage hasn't been released. So chances are it might be released next week. But again, 5 black police officers beat down 1 man. And again, I have this theory when it comes to police body cameras. The theory I have is that when the police have done nothing wrong or they're justified in their actions, camera footage gets released almost immediately. When they do something wrong, or when they're caught in the wrong, oh, well, we need to analyze this. We need to do this, this, and this. We can't really show it to the public because we don't want to sway witness testimony or public opinion. I'm trying to figure that one out. So let me get this straight. You're telling me that showing police officers beating down a black man could be a problem in tampering with witnesses in a future trial or swaying public opinion. As if the headline title, 5 Memphis police officers beat 1 man, doesn't seem to do it. That's why I say it's weak sauce. It's a weak sauce argument because it almost, and I hate to say this, and then we really find ourselves saying the same thing over and over again, that for some odd reason, there seems to be a need to protect police when police are in the wrong. Why is there a need to do that? The whole idea is protect and serve. Now, you guys have heard me say many times in this podcast that police reform needs to happen, that training needs to be extended, that requirements need to be put in place, that mental health screenings need to be put in place, and training needs to be increased. I'll even argue that the police officers need to be paid more. I'll be the first person to argue that for them. That yes, police officers don't get paid enough. No first responder gets paid enough. No first responder does, but they need to. I will gladly pay more for police officers who are qualified, who actually can do their job, at the same time, not use black people as target practice. Even though these 5 officers that were charged are black, which is saying a lot, especially in Memphis. But we do know that those 5 officers were charged and that they are moving forward with a trial. Footage may or may not get released. Like I said, when the police officer's been caught in the wrong, all of a sudden, the footage seems to be more protected than Trump's tax returns. That's all I'm saying. But speaking of shootings, unfortunately, we did have another shooting that occurred at a workplace. And Well, this just goes to show you that gun violence and gun laws in America seriously and utterly need to change.
Deputies made the arrest just outside the sheriff's department's front door. The 66-year-old suspected gunman, who investigators say killed 7 farm workers, whisked into custody after an officer spotted the man in a car with a semi-automatic weapon.
We found him with his seat back. He was laying in the front seat, and luckily we were able to apprehend him quickly.
Authorities say Chun-Li Zhao began his rampage just before 2:30 p.m. Monday in Half Moon Bay at this farm where he worked. After killing 4 and critically wounding another, investigators say he drove 3 miles to a second agriculture center and shot 3 more to death. Families and children lived on the property.
There were no specific indicators that would have led us to believe that he was capable of something like this.
The arrest outside San Francisco marked the second mass shooting in California in 48 hours, both allegedly at the hands of senior citizens. Just 24 days into this year, 70 have been killed in 39 mass shootings.
How many people have to die? How many children have to be killed? How many children have to witness their parents being killed?
Authorities said the suspect was not previously known to police and described the shooting as a workplace violence incident. Tonight, friends and family of those feared dead are desperate for answers.
We hear about this and we see it on the news, and it almost seems like it's our normal. And it's not right. We have to do something. We have to do more.
Tonight, the once unspeakable, now seemingly routine, as another community finds itself in the middle of a mass shooting.
And Miguel joining us from Half Moon Bay, where the first shooting occurred. Miguel, what's next for the suspect?
Well, Lester, the suspect's initial court appearance is tomorrow. He's expected to face 7 counts of murder and 1 charge of attempted murder. Police say he has been cooperating, but the big unknown tonight, motive. Why?
Well, I mean, you sat there and tried to claim it as workplace violence. But again, these are one of the reasons why I keep saying gun laws need to change, because red flag laws, I'm all for that. Background checks need to happen more. The fact that there are some weapons that need to be limited, again, I'm all for it. But the fact that this gunman just out of nowhere decided that 7 people or more needed to die leads us to really think about what's really going on out there. And for the simple fact of the matter, it's just that how in the absolute it's mystifying, because anytime you talk about gun laws, let me tell you something. Anytime you talk about gun laws, the first thing they always sit there and say, the criminals will get a hold of guns, not realizing that the last mass shootings were all from legally purchased weapons. None of them illegal. I guarantee in this person's case, he also has a legally purchased firearm. He actually, as they dig deeper, I wouldn't be surprised if they find acts of violence or acts of tendencies. Things that might have actually been seen. I would not be surprised if they find that. Why? Because out of every mass shooting, they seem to find something along those lines that where someone should have sat there and said, how is this not a red flag? That's what a lot of people do. But again, this is why I keep on saying the whole entire time, gun laws need to change. And the governor of California is already calling for it. But again, with this new Congress, Republicans still support the NRA, which is surprisingly still around. We shall see how they will defend this, because if multiple children being shot at school didn't sway them, I doubt this will as well. But moving right along, guys, I did want to cover this as well, because this is kind of odd. I never thought I'd say this in a sentence where the government, Ticketmaster, and Taylor Swift all went to a bar.
Top executive of Ticketmaster's parent company being pressed on Capitol Hill over the meltdown for tickets for Taylor Swift's latest tour. Our senior congressional correspondent, Rachel Scott, has the latest. Good morning, Rachel.
Hey, Robin, good morning to you. And Taylor Swift fans will know this all too well. It was a fiasco that led to soaring ticket prices, hours of confusion, and now lawmakers are taking on the world's largest ticket seller. After that massive meltdown over Taylor Swift tickets, Democrats and Republicans uniting to say Taylor isn't the problem, instead calling out Ticketmaster and its parent company Live Nation
for widespread outages and hours-long wait times, which left millions of fans empty-handed for the singer's upcoming tour.
Ticketmaster should look in the mirror and say, I'm the problem. It's me.
I waited in line for like 6 hours. But on Tuesday, the company blaming bots that scooped up tickets.
This is what led to a terrible consumer experience, which we deeply regret. We need to do better, and we will do better.
Lawmakers not taking that.
Whether it is utilities, electric, water, power, they get bot attacks every single day by the thousands. And they have figured it out, but you guys haven't. This is unbelievable.
Senators say the recent merger between Ticketmaster and Live Nation made the company a monopoly, giving them control of 70% of the industry. Some experts say that's harming artists, competitors, and fans.
Customers pay the price for these monopolistic acts with higher ticket prices and fees, lower quality, less choice, and less innovation.
Yeah, so lawmakers taking every opportunity to quote Taylor Swift during that hearing, saying the company is a nightmare, just like a daydream. But what can they actually do about it? Well, some say it's time for Live Nation and Ticketmaster to split up. Others say it's time for the Senate to pass stronger legislation to make some of those fees more transparent, guys.
Or you could reinforce the antitrust laws that you have. I mean, that's the thing about it. It amazes me that when it comes to businesses being this big, that there is a way to solve this. This is the reason why we had antitrust laws. For all those that are my age, don't remember that at one point, AOL and Time Warner were trying to merge, but antitrust laws kept that from happening because if they did, it would basically force the market to go one route and one route only. And for the longest time, the government fought that in court with AOL and Time Warner, and eventually it just didn't happen. At the same time, Xfinity, also who owns Spectrum, who owns three other cable conglomerates, is taking over everywhere. They are basically the mocking violation of antitrust. Still out do what they want. I'll even give the biggest example of all. I'm talking about the mouse, Disney. Disney at this point almost owns, and this is just a rough estimate, Disney owns roughly 65% or more of all media out there. ESPN, Marvel, Fox. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to go for Sony next. But again, when you think about everything that Disney owns, they own quite a lot. But again, biggest version of antitrust. And this is the thing about Ticketmaster. Ticketmaster and Live Nation really came together because if you think about it, they cornered the market. They bought everybody out and either bought them out or assimilated them into their own company. Why are we surprised at this rate that Ticketmaster Live Nation is really able to operate this way? Because there's simply no competition, which is kind of funny because you would think for conservatives, they love competition. Secretly, they hate it. They like monogamy. They like one company that kicks back to them and is able to operate business as usual. But it's amazing that it takes a Taylor Swift concert for politicians to come forward and sit there and look at Ticketmaster Live Nation and go, yeah, we need to split you guys up. You won't. They'll be too busy. They will be too busy lobbying you guys to make sure that they're able to operate as normal. There'll be some donations to PACs and things of that nature, and then the story will die down. And Ticketmaster and Live Nation will be able to operate business as usual. Why? Because they basically dominated the market. It's almost in the same sense. So if you look at phones, with most phones, it used to be Samsung and iPhone, and Samsung and Apple, I should say. Yeah, you have other carriers out there, but imagine if all you had was Samsung and Apple. Again, not a lot of choices there. You're going to go one or the other. But that's the problem. That's the reason why antitrust laws exist. Antitrust laws are to always make sure that you do have a choice somewhere down the line. In this case of ticket sales, you don't. And when a company knows that they are the only people you can go to, they got no problem jacking up the prices. Why? Because they know somewhere along the line, somebody's going to pay it. But moving right along, guys, I did want to cover this story of the teacher that got shot by the 6-year-old whose parents said the gun was secure, but really was not, that they are excellent gun homeowners, which is clearly not the case because the kid walked out of there with gun loaded and apparently had an intention to shoot the teacher. Yeah, that same teacher did survive and is now suing the school district she once worked for. Why? Because the administration kind of was warned about the activities of this child.
And her attorneys say she is planning to sue the school district. Alleged administrators were warned 3 times that the boy had a gun. Our Chief Justice correspondent, Pierre Thomas, has the latest for us. Good morning, Pierre.
Michael, good morning. We're learning new detail about the teacher's recovery, and outrage in the city continues to grow amid new allegations of flashing red warning signs somehow missed or ignored.
This morning, teacher Abby Zerwerner at home, trying to heal, with a bullet still lodged in her chest, fired by that 6-year-old student.
The road to full recovery will be long.
2 weeks after the attack that shocked the nation, the Newport News teacher is breaking her silence through an attorney, accusing the school of failing to stop the violence despite multiple warnings.
3 times, school administration was warned by concerned teachers and employees that the boy had a gun on him at the school. But the administration could not be bothered.
That attorney laying out a disturbing timeline, saying it was Zerwerner who first warned the school the boy had threatened to beat up another child that morning.
They didn't call security. They didn't remove the student from the classroom.
After a tip about a gun, another teacher searched the boy's backpack an hour later, but found nothing. But when the teacher warned an administrator the gun could be in the pocket, her concerns were allegedly dismissed.
The administrator downplayed the report from the teacher and the possibility of a gun, saying, and I quote, "Well, he has little pockets."
A half an hour later, Zerwerner's attorney says a third teacher reported a student who was crying because the 6-year-old had threatened him with the gun during recess. But again, no action. Finally, Zerwerner claims another concerned staffer asked to search the boy but was denied, told, wait the situation out because the school day was almost over. Minutes later, police say the boy opened fire with a handgun he brought from home.
Female victim, she's been shot in the abdomen as well as a through and through into the hand.
The parents of the 6-year-old suspect say he suffers from an acute disability and claim the shooting occurred during the first week he attended class without a parent. But one parent of a child in the classroom tells ABC News she's not aware of parent chaperones being allowed in class. And one substitute teacher who led the same class back in the fall says there were no parents marked present.
There was not even like a teacher's aide in the classroom.
Overnight, a decisive move.
The motion carries 5-1.
The school board voting to oust the superintendent.
Sometimes out of tragedy, it comes opportunity for growth, for change.
In response to news of the lawsuit, the boy's family attorney has released a statement saying they continue to pray for the teacher and that they wish her a complete and full recovery. But that teacher is demanding answers and accountability.
Are we all? Although I don't get why the superintendent had to be fired. If anything, the school officials, those at the school, need to be fired. Because if the ones who sat there and told these teachers, hey, I think we need to check that little boy, and every one of them kept saying, well, no, we're going to do that. He's got little pockets. It's almost the end of school. Don't worry about it. Those people that denied those teachers, those staffers from doing what need to be done, those need to be fired. I don't get the superintendent. Why does the superintendent need to be fired? The superintendent wasn't there at the school. And then again, the parents had the unmitigated gall to sit there and say, well, he has an acute disability that one of us is not at the school, that he'll have an episode. Let me tell you something. I am not knocking those with disabilities. But if you not being at the school causes your child to go get a gun and then go to school and decide to shoot the place up, that's not a disability, honey. That's trained. Which is why I'm against kids getting trained. That's exactly why I'm against kids getting gun safety or kids learning about firearms or that kids have access to firearms for that single reason. Because again, the parents should be facing crimes of neglect. The parents should be facing multiple crimes of that, how their child was able to walk out and literally cause a school shooting. They should face some charges in that as well. There should be some accountability in that. But I don't blame that. I don't blame that teacher got shot. I don't blame the teacher got shot suing the school. However, I think the superintendent being fired just makes no sense when it should be those school administrators that deny those staffers from actually doing what's needed, because if they did, we might have prevented a shooting. And at the same time, it might have shown that some school officials don't need to be school officials if they, given the wave of school shootings and how they've happened, if school officials act like that, they do not need to be in a position where whatever decision they make can affect multiple lives. That is all I'm saying. But we'll follow that story as it comes along. Kamala Harris, I know, Madam Vice President. We haven't heard from her in a while, at least in most situations since she tried to get voted in, has decided that she now supports calling on abortion rights to be protected as federal rights. I'm going to hold my judgment till after you watch this.
For nearly 50 years, Americans relied on the rights that Roe protected. Today, however, on what would have been its 50th anniversary, we speak of the Roe decision in the past tense. Because last June, the United States Supreme Court took away that constitutional right, a fundamental right, a basic freedom from the people of America, from the women of America. I'm pleased to announce that President Biden, I'm announcing it today, has issued a presidential memorandum on this issue. Members of our cabinet and our administration are now directed, as of the president's order, to identify barriers to access to prescription medication and to recommend actions to make sure that doctors can legally prescribe, that pharmacies can dispense, and that women can secure safe and effective medication. So we will continue to stand together in the fight to protect the freedom and liberty of all people, of all women everywhere. And here now, on this 50th anniversary, let us resolve to make history and secure this right.
Okay, so now that you've heard that, this might be a really unpopular opinion, because as much as Kamala Harris did make history as being the first Madam Vice President elected to a vice presidential office, she has been the least effective one. I just don't get it. Why now? I mean, my whole thing is, I'm not trying to call her out as a woman that she should have been fighting harder. I'm not going to call her out that she should use her position to be more vocal, but it just feels like she takes these choice spots. A memorandum basically just means that there is a directive to do something. And even what they're trying to do, make birth control more accessible via pharmacy, making birth control more accessible via mail order, being physicians being able to give that to you. You know, the one thing she's not saying in that whole thing, which kind of bothers me, you're basically saying that you're giving up on abortion, making abortion legal as far as being codified. Because you did same-sex marriages, you codified the Marriage Act. You codified that. Some Republicans approved, some Republicans, along with all the Democrats, went for this, and y'all were able to protect same-sex rights, same-sex marriages, same-sex transgenders marriages. You're able to do that, no problem. However, I have to ask this question. Does this feel like you basically are saying, well, we'll never get back to where abortion was legal everywhere, but we can make sure that you have access to medication, or we'll try? I just feel like that's a compromise. I feel like, now granted, I would be obtuse to not think that, you will not get Republicans on board. Although Republicans have found out very recently that when you attack a woman's rights, the female voters come out and humble you easily. But at the same time, guys, it's the idea of just that instead of saying, we're going to try to make sure the medication and physicians that can help you and pharmacies that have it are able to help you, because they're too busy getting sued. They're too busy dodging hate calls and calls of hate and folks protesting outside, folks who heavily confused about pro-life and pro-birth protesting outside their areas. And even in most states, they already have trigger law. They already have their trigger laws went into effect about banning abortion outright, unless you're the mistress of a Republican. Then after that, it's just God's will. But that's what I say is the problem with Kamala Harris. It's just that I don't get with the man. I mean, for the Madam Vice President, she doesn't seem as effective as previous vice presidents of the past. I mean, say what you want about creepy Christian Mike Pence, but at least we heard from him for more than once in a blue moon. Kamala Harris is, she pops up every once in a while, lets us know that she's still there, and then she disappears. And I can't think outside of being the deciding factor to get Kajani Brown Jackson, the first Black woman Supreme Court. Outside of that action she's done, I can't think of another time she was effective. I really can't. And I really don't want to say, I mean, the more I think about that, I'm like, how effective has she been that now is the time to talk about abortion rights when you should have been talking about abortion rights, should have been fighting abortion rights since the leak from the Supreme Court document opinion came out from Alito. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. It just feels like this. I mean, outside of Kamala Harris speaking, this just feels like a compromise. But you guys let me know. But speaking of things that are just wild, because Florida, the current king of the Hold My Beer Championships series, if you haven't noticed about this, Ron DeSantis decided, as dictator of Florida, that he decides, what things can be talked about and what things can be studied in school. Finance, no problem. History, to a certain extent, as long as it's whitewashed. AP African American Studies, no. Every other ethnic group studies, yes. I wish I can make this up.
Says a new advanced placement African American studies course is not welcome in its high schools, marking the first time a state has ever refused to certify an AP course. In a statement to NBC News, the Florida Department of Education says, in part, the course was rejected because it, quote, is a vehicle for a political agenda and leaves large ambiguous gaps that can be filled with additional ideological material. Florida's Commissioner of Education saying in a tweet, in part, quote, Florida rejected an AP course filled with critical race theory, and we proudly required the teaching of African American history.
I think the ambiguity is what is causing some level of consternation across the state and, quite frankly, across the country.
The claims of indoctrination and critical race theory have previously been denied by the College Board, who said, in part, AP students are never required to agree with a particular opinion or adopt a particular ideology, but they are expected to analyze different perspectives. In response to Florida's decision, the College Board said, in part, like all new AP courses, AP African American Studies is undergoing a rigorous multi-year pilot phase, collecting feedback from teachers, students, scholars, and policymakers. We visited a Memphis, Tennessee pilot course in October.
All right, guys, show of hands, Langston Hughes. Who knows who Langston Hughes is? It's interdisciplinary. So we're including art, music, literature, geography. But we want to teach students to think and to think critically and give them safe spaces to do that.
The pilot, introduced in 60 schools, including one in Florida. Students currently taking the course will not receive an AP exam score or college credit. Florida's rejection of AP African American Studies comes as Republican Governor Ron DeSantis, today considered by some to be a frontrunner for the Republican presidential nomination, has already signed bills that ban lessons around critical race theory and limit lessons on sexual orientation and gender identity. This latest ban comes as 36 states have introduced 137 bills to restrict teaching on race, gender, and history, according to a PEN America report.
The state of Florida stipulates that this information shall be taught to students throughout the state. So I was unable to square that rejection with what I knew about law and what I knew specifically about the value and the impact that it has on the learning and the lives of our students across the state.
The College Board tells NBC on February 1st they will release the official framework for the course.
Now, what's crazy is, and I'm going to be honest with you guys, the one thing I've always sat there and said when it comes to African American studies, it annoys me when a white person tries to sit there and tell us what we can and cannot teach or what we can and cannot learn. because that's what it was. See, Ron DeSantis, the dictator of Florida, decided that, oh no, we can't teach this because it has woke tendencies. You know, a word that many conservatives use completely wrong, but swear up and down it's owning the libs. Yeah, that word. Yeah, he tried to snare and say that AP African American Studies may include CRT, which again, it doesn't. I cannot tell you how many times that has been said to where it's like, oh, but it contains critical race theory. You know what I always wondered? Why is it that when critical race theory gets mentioned or suggested, white people lose their shit? They're the only group. They're the only people out there, outside of a few black people who believe that raisins and potato salad is a wonderful thing. Aside from that, they're the only people out there that get offended. Why? Critical race theory, again, is only being taught in law school. It's never been taught in the school. I kind of wish it is taught in school now, but it's not. But at the same time, AP African American Studies is a history, and I've been told this since I was a kid. If you do not learn your story, they will tell you theirs and expect you to smile. That's what they'll do. So again, Ron DeSantis is worried about the woke woke culture and indoctrination, which I always said it best. The true indoctrination out there is religious schools. If that ain't the true indoctrination of definition of indoctrination, I don't know what is. But it is completely okay to teach AP African American Studies, which I find interesting that Ron DeSantis only blocked that, but every other ethnic group out there, no problem. Why is that? Maybe because most of Florida is mostly immigrants, or that the declining Caucasian race may not be the most saving factor in his next reelection. But then again, 2024 is not that too far off. He may announce a presidential bid. He may not. Although I keep on saying this, Ron DeSantis Ron DeSantis, the dictator / governor of Florida, is basically Trump 2.0. He's just a little bit smarter this time. He's just a little bit smarter than the previous model. But I digress. Moving on, guys. Again, we are now seeing that Amazon is entering the pharmacy race, as it seems the drug market may be the next gold rush as they're introducing their prescription plan. Yes, Amazon is producing a premium drug prescription plan. Try saying that 5 times fast.
Now to our CNBC Money Minute. You will soon have a new way to get your medications. Amazon is adding a new prescription perk for Prime members in the U.S. The add-on is called RX Pass. It will offer 50 generic medications used to treat some common conditions.
CNBC correspondent Contessa Brewer joins us now. So Contessa, we know they've been pushing into healthcare for a while now, launching its own online pharmacy a couple years ago. How is this new system going to work?
Well, this is another, Craig, big push, because this new program called RX Pass will work as an add-on to a Prime membership. For an extra $5 a month, members may have access to as many drugs as they need from a list of 50 generic medications. Amazon's chief medical officer said about 150 million people use at least one of those medications offered by this new program. We'll watch for its rollout.
NBC News White House correspondent.
Oh, that got away from me. I apologize. But yes, that is the Amazon. Amazon is introducing their prescription plan for Prime members. That is, like I said before, we'll have people paying $5 a month to fill as many prescriptions as they need from a list of 50 generic medications. Of course, anybody that's ever had generic means that it's just cheaper than brand name drugs. Which again, I guess I understand. I mean, Amazon is the Walmart of e-commerce. It's not going away anytime soon. We all use it, myself included, just because, well, they figured out how to get us. It's cheaper and it can be delivered from home very quickly. Just the way it is. But it does bring up the next thing, as I keep saying, guys. The next market is the drug. The next market itself is the drug market. And I think with Mark Cuban opening his pharmaceutical company, Amazon getting into it, I would not be surprised if other retailers start doing their own thing, because the drug market is the next gold rush. Because let's be honest, a lot of health insurance, not life insurance, health insurance companies have always had the run of this. The U.S. is a closed drug market. We only deal with Mexico and maybe Canada on very restrictive surfaces, but we don't deal with the rest of the world. The rest of the world's drug markets are wide open except for the U.S. Why? Because those very same health insurance companies have lobbied to make sure that the U.S. is a closed-off drug market. But as we are starting to see, more companies are starting to pop up offering offering a difference in how you get your prescriptions. Even though Amazon right now may be offering generic, depending on how this pilot program goes, it may expand the full service. And then you're going to see a lot of competition. But again, this is exactly what Bernie Sanders was saying the entire time. If you open up the drug market to competition, people will have different choices. Prices will get better. It's better for the consumer. It's better for the companies in competition. It's just funny now that everybody was calling him crazy for saying that. And as we look at it now, it's starting to come to fruition. Prove me wrong. But we're going to go ahead and move on to our feel good segment, guys. It's usually how the fact we got here. We do cover a lot of things that are doom and gloom, sometimes making use of faith in humanity. But hey, it's the weekend. Hopefully where you are, it's nice and dry and you're trying to relax from the work week. And we want to leave you guys out with some positive vibes and good vibrations. And this one is dealing with a mother and son who, it's not just a wedding dress. It is a road that they both traveled to where it really does end in a happy ending. And I think we all could use a happy ending right now.
You ready to walk me down the aisle? Think you can do it? You gonna cry? You need a napkin?
Me and my mom have been through quite a bit together.
Yeah, give her a hug.
All of those moments just replayed in my mind.
Happy tears? Promise? You promise?
And I was like, wow, we've really been through a lot. And now we're finally here.
Love you so much.
I actually had Mikai right out of college. Oh, it was a struggle being a single mom. I had a great support system, great family who stepped in, but it was still really hard to go to school and make sure he had the things that he needed. And at times, it was either he ate or I ate, and he ate every time. We've had some challenges in the relationship department. I was in an emotionally abusive relationship. There was times where I just had a lot of lows. I saw that my mom wasn't very happy, so I tried my best to do whatever it could to make her happy so we could go back to a normal life. Mikai was the only thing that really kept me at my best. I tried to spend more time with her, trying to do more things for her, like helping her around the house and cooking and all this stuff that will help her feel like less stress was on her back. I really say a lot of the times that he saved my life. He's one of the main reasons why I worked so hard to give him whatever I could, if I could. I met Jeff. We've been together almost 2 years. Jeff met Mikai when he was right before his 10th birthday. I was very protective of Mikai. I was not wanting to expose him to really anyone at that time. I wanted to make sure that if I entered into a new relationship that he was going to be someone who was going to love my son as if it was his own son. He didn't meet him right away, but then he had an opportunity to come over and meet him. I was a little hesitant because of the last relationship. I was more so trying not to get attached. Watching him interact with Mikai, he is very, very outgoing and very outspoken. Mikai is a little bit more introverted, so it helped bring Mikai out of his shell for sure. He was very nice to my mom, he was very nice to me. So then I started opening up my shell a little bit, and then kept on being there for me, coming to my birthday parties, doing all this nice stuff for me. And then my shell finally opened up. I kind of knew that he was the one at that point.
You hug mommy? Yeah, give her a hug.
When I was younger, I thought, oh, all these children at school, they have moms and dads. Man, that would be great if I had a full family, but I only have my mom. All you have is one parent, and that parent's gonna be there forever for you. And for everybody that only has one parent, I just want them to know that you might not have one parent forever. And if you think your family is different, that's okay. It's okay to have a different family. You don't have to be like everybody else.
We're gonna do this. We're gonna make them cry. See, I've been doing good all day. I love you so much.
That's a beautiful thing. Because it's one of those things to where I fully believe in the fact of the matter that, when you see single parents, look, I can't relate to you guys. I'm not gonna try to. I just know that it's a struggle, it's a challenge, and hats off for you guys really trying to make a positive life for you and your children. And also shout out to the step parent. I never call them. I hate the word step parents. Shout out to those that step up to be a part of a family that a pre-started family. Shout out to the women and men who do that, because again, it takes a different kind of strength to raise a child that you may have not been there for the conception. You may have not been there for the birth, but you are there for the rest of their lives, and that in itself, salute to that. But anyway, just love the fact of seeing a happy ending. We all can use happy endings right now. But that's going to do it for this podcast, guys. And thank you all for watching, for liking, for letting people know this is live. I certainly appreciate that. Some shameless plugs before we do get out of here. Shout out to my buddy Vaughn at BigVZA on all socials. You can definitely find him there. Usually TikTok or Facebook, YouTube, where he sees his beats, and TikToks where he comes up with his weird, but sometimes thought-provoking questions, but definitely check him out, BigVZA on all socials. As for yours truly, you can find me almost on every social, BlackFox447 by the name. I usually post reviews on everything that I watch, that I read, that I play, and experience. Just because I kind of do a lot, where do I find time to sleep? But aside from that, guys, the link that you see at the bottom, let me get that just a little bit bigger for you guys. If you copy and paste that into your browser, it'll take you to my link tree that has the YouTube and Facebook groups for all of my podcasts. How the Fact We Got Here, Get Bit, and of course, Alphonse Podcast. Like, share, and subscribe. Let me you guys know what you think, because I really want to know, because this whole thing is about keeping you informed, bringing us together, really uniting us, because again, we need to be informed. We need to know exactly what's going on in our world, and we need to basically be actions. We cannot expect those I'm gonna be honest with you. I know it's gonna sound cliche. We cannot expect those in government positions to help us. We first must help ourselves. That's one thing we were told as kids. The same thing I find myself saying now to my children. It's like, before I can help you, you first must help yourself. And that's what we must do. Also, if you are traveling, again, we don't mention the word a lot, but Corona is still around. RSV is still out there. Respiratory issues, again, a lot of variants. If you are traveling, please, oh please, wear a mask. At the same time, guys, please protect yourself. If you're feeling sick, stay home. But again, do everything you can, because if you protect yourself, you protect others. That helps us tremendously in getting this pandemic under control, and it helps out those doctors and nurses and hospital professionals that are in hospitals right now, still doing good work despite them needing to get paid more. But that's a whole nother story. That being said, guys, the last thing I say about the Frack We Got Here, it's all about staying informed. We are not trying to reinvent the wheel. We are simply trying to give you all the information and allow you to make up your own mind but we provide a logical perspective that goes along with it. We do a lot better as society once we're informed. We're progressive. We move forward. We try to basically change our past by fixing our future, by doing decisions now that we should have done back then, like electing our first. Well, let's go down the list. We've elected our first Madam Vice President. We've elected our first Black woman Supreme Court. We've elected our first Black woman to the Federal Board of Governors. We've elected our first Black 4-star military general. All great and wonderful things. When we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. That's why we keep asking ourselves, why does everything go up by your paycheck? Why are we electing the same politicians but still the same old game in Congress? And most importantly, how the frack we got here? Thank you all for watching, guys. Take care of yourselves and each other. We will